Good afternoon. This is your host, Dan Stafford, with the Midwestern Geek in Cali YouTube channel. And know it's been a couple of weeks since I've been here doing my thing, so I'll get back to that in a minute. Obviously, I am YouTubing from my favorite place, 42 TARDIS Way, here in lovely Temecula, California, summer's winter home. And it's been a busy month and a half, actually. Um, I had to achieve Microsoft Certified Solutions Associate by September 29th, and I actually managed to do it. So here are the two little jewels. Let's see here, that way and that way. Both of those together actually make MCSA for Windows 10 client computers. And I have now officially started Microsoft Server 2012 R2 courses. I'm learning a little bit about Server 2008, 2008 R2, 2012, 2012 R2. I've also found out that next year I'm going to be needing to certify on Windows Server 2016 and Cisco Certified Network Associate. So CCNA. Those will be coming up next year, and I'm also looking probably next year to certify as Linux Pro. So lots of good geeking going on. I am keeping really busy with school. It's not going to slack off too much, but I won't be quite so under the gun as I was, because these two certs were required to keep my job. So obviously priorities have to be what priorities have to be, and I managed to pull it off a few days ahead of schedule. Last weekend I just needed a mental break, so I took and got a good book. For those of you who know me from way back, from my younger years, I was an extremely avid reader for most of my life. Read at least a book a week, at least, for years and years and years. And it's been so busy the last few years, I hadn't read a book in 2 years. So I just took a break and got out of Dodge and dived into a good book. Went and picked something to read. Got a great cup of coffee. Had my first pumpkin spice latte of the fall. That's one of my little fall weaknesses. I love the pumpkin spice latte at Starbucks, which they also have at one of my favorite places on the planet, Barnes and Noble. No, I did not get paid to say any of that. I didn't even get a free pumpkin spice latte. I just liked the things. Okay, so just saying. I don't do too many of them, but when I do, it's venti, triple shot, no whip. Give me the spices, shake them on top. Yeah, hot. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about fall. So on that note, let's move on. I have not got any guests currently lined up. I'm looking to line up a couple. I've got some ideas in mind, so I'll work on that hopefully. And we've got some interesting tech stories coming out. So these, I need to put on the new computer glasses that I got so I can actually read this stuff at a distance. Pardon my glare here. I know it's kind of funny with the reflection in the glasses, but it is what it is. Yeah, I'm geeking at 56 years old, relatively healthy, and I'm just going to have to deal with some computer glasses. So my favorite story. Oh, by the way, this is episode 75. Let's talk about that for a minute. So 75 episodes, and those of you who've been on my YouTube channel probably wondered, well, this guy's claiming 75 episodes, but there's nowhere near 75 episodes on there. So here's the scoop. I started this show off as an audio-only podcast, and it was hosted on Podbean, which is a good hosting service, don't get me wrong, but life being what it is, I could not afford paid hosting. So I had to back my channel down, or my podcast down to a free account, which has very limited storage. And I decided to move into a YouTube channel. Because it's much easier to do it on a nickel and dime budget. Well, I don't even have a penny budget for this thing. It's just me, my time, and whatever I can do. So I got, a lot of new episodes up on YouTube. I'm working as I can on doing visualized audio for the prior episodes that were from the podcast. So I will be uploading those as time permits, and eventually we'll get there. You will eventually be able to find all those earlier episodes on my YouTube channel as visualized audio, and eventually I'm hoping to return to podcasting and capture the audio from my existing shows and add them to a podcast long term. So it's all work in progress. I'm doing what I can. I'm working full time, going to school full time, and podcasting / YouTubing on the side. So it's all good fun. All right. So the book I'm reading, I did not quite get to finish it last week. I got a good dent in it, probably 2/3 of the way through. It's a novel about a gal whose grandmother left Cuba right after Batista was evicted from the island in 1958, I want to say it was. And she's a modern day descendant, the granddaughter in 2017, and she's like a freelance journalist who does lifestyle pieces, travel, restaurants, that kind of stuff. And she's going back to Cuba to kind of retrace her family history a little bit after relations thaw out. So they give you time jumps from the perspective of the grandmother in Cuba, and that who happens to be the daughter of a sugar baron. So very wealthy family. She has a couple of sisters, and let's see, the granddaughter comes in, and she's got kind of a little bit of a family mission. It's kind of an interesting thing. So it's a good novel, and it's got a little bit of romance to it, which is also nice too, both in the past and in modern times. It teaches a lot about another culture. I don't know that much about Cuban culture other than we have a wonderful Cuban restaurant in Old Town Temecula. Absolutely fantastic. Best Cubanos I could ever want to find this side of Miami. So very happy with that. And we've got another couple of Cuban places in town that do really good Cubanos, but the one I absolutely adore is the one on 5th Street, Havana Kitchen. If you ever see this, thank you for being around and being one of my favorite places to grab a sandwich when I get a chance to be in Old Town. So, side note from that, let's see here. So, the novel is still in progress. I'll probably get a little bit more on it tomorrow, but I also have to pick up my Saturday schoolwork because Saturdays I do all student schoolwork 9 to 5. So, put in a good solid, 7 hours because I do take a lunch break. Yeah, on Saturdays as well. So, I'm pushing it pretty good. Yeah, and enjoying it. So let's see, we've got a few stories here that I want to talk about. I'm going to jump over though to a poetry site that I do. I wrote a little piece to kind of celebrate, and let's see if I have it here. There we go. Okay, so this is a piece that I wrote to celebrate achieving my certifications and taking a break with a book. So it's entitled Memoir, a Cigar with the Lost Sugar Queens of Old Havana. The night is one of quiet celebration. Appropriately, it is the evening of the autumnal equinox. The air is cool in the high desert of Temecula. A light jacket, perfect. The stars shine above me as aircraft slowly blink their way across the sky. The palm trees are still sentinels in pooled light of amber street lamps. It's quiet except for the crickets and car tires in the distance. I just achieved the 2 certifications that have saved my new job and launched my second career. I had only 9 days left to spare. I have tokens for marking the months of hard work it took me to achieve this. I just finished a very fine cigar, the best I've had in a year. It was bought from Bob, at least that's the name he gives. Bob is the fellow who sounds and looks as if he is from India and runs the strip mall smoke shop down the hill. His shop is small, but he built an excellent walk-in humidor for his shop. He is rightfully proud of that humidor, and it's really cool too, by the way. He assured me that this cigar from one of his top humidor shelves is truly excellent. He was quite truthful, and I will tell him so when I see him next. The other token is the first novel I've read in 2 years. Most people who know the younger me would be slack-jawed and shocked to read the sentence immediately preceding this one. I just picked the novel out this evening, and it is different from my usual fare of science fiction and fantasy. It is a story of a woman of Cuban descent and her sugar industry heiress grandmother who fled Cuba as a teenager immediately after Batista fled the island. It's written in a poetic and romantic style and jumps smoothly from the late 1950s era of the young woman fleeing Cuba to the days of her journalist granddaughter returning her ashes to the land she loved. Next Year in Havana is the title, and I am in love with it after the first chapter. The book is paper in my hands, a tactile joy I have missed. The cigar was so good that it was painful to have finished, and I was loath to put it out. It was completely synchronistic for the tone of the book I am reading on several levels. So is this writing poetry? What am I giving my reader in this moment? I would argue that poetry is the art of putting heart into writing of the small, poignant moments of life. It is the art of bringing those moments to life and magnifying them for the reader. A piece of the story is all I can give, but let it be a piece that you can look at in words with your heart's eye and maybe fall a little bit in love with. Yes, I am living this, loving this moment and laying it at your fingertips. Perhaps the air here in California tonight smells faintly of the ocean after the afternoon breezes from San Diego have finished their journey up the Temecula Valley, just as one of the characters in my book is scenting the warm, salty air of Cuba upon her return to the land of her immediate ancestors. The rest of her journey waits in the soft paper of the pages in my hands. The rest of my journey awaits me on Monday morning. For this weekend, however, I will have my feet in Temecula and my heart and mind in 2 very different times in Cuba. All I have to do now is turn another page. And thank you for your patience in listening to that. So let's get on to some of the technology stuff, the fun geek stuff. So, sidetrack. A local California hero, Huelleleujah, and this is good news. He did a couple of series on KCET out of Los Angeles, which is a local PBS channel. Absolutely love the show. Learned more about California by watching Huelleleujah than pretty much all the reading I've done in the rest of my life, which is saying a lot. Huell's passed away a few years ago now. I think it was 2015. But he left a legacy of really cool videos. He went and searched out quite a few different cool places all around California. I love the show, and here's the good news. KCET did a Kickstarter, and they ran a campaign to fund Huell's show in rerun syndication on KCET, and here we go. We funded the Kickstarter campaign. Huge thanks to everyone who supported this at KCET Project, and ensured that we will have more Huelleleujah for years to come. Now we'll get more Huell. Thanks for this. All right, so I'm really jazzed about that. So we're building up our DVR collection of Huelleleujah shows, and when we want something that's not antagonistic, polarized, angry, apocalyptic, actually is uplifting, joyful, fun, positive. You know, you can't go wrong watching Huelleleujah. He always finds the coolest stuff around California, and he is so positive and upbeat and fun and boisterous and big and kind of larger than life. It's just an absolute joy to watch that show, and I'm very grateful that it's going to be on for a much longer time. And that was posted on Twitter this past August 28th. So I just found it recently, and very glad to have done so. Okay, so next up, there's a major update to Windows 10 coming out October 2nd. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff in this, some major upgrades for Windows, so pretty awesome stuff actually. I won't get to all of it here in this episode, episode 75. Wow, that's kind of cool. Text from your PC with the Your Phone app. So I'm reading an article here on howtogeek.com. I will link all this stuff on the blog site, www.midwesterngeekandcali.com. I'll put links to all these stories in the show. The Windows one you're going to probably want to at least skim through, if not read through. There's a lot of stuff. They're doing some major upgrades to Windows Notepad to make it more compatible with other operating systems. They're doing some stuff like clipboard history. So now, right now in Windows, you can basically copy one thing to your clipboard and that's it. So it looks like they're going to use the set up the clipboard to be able to have a history of the things that you've copied, so that you can choose a list of things to paste. So you don't have to keep copying and recopying and copying and recopying because you just copied something else and you, oh wait, I forgot to paste that other. Yeah, they're going to fix that. They're also getting a dark theme for File Explorer, which looks pretty cool. They got a little GIF here that shows the difference between the current version of File Explorer and the dark theme version. That might be fun to turn on sometime at night. Not major, but cool. They're doing, they're calling it Swift Key. Comes to Windows 10. This is more for mobile devices, but basically your on-screen keyboard is going to have swipey keys, so you can do swiping text on the on-screen keyboard, which is going to be great for tablet users and mobile phone users who use Windows 10, and of course touchscreen laptop users who use Windows 10. Now they're delaying sets because this is a thing that was going to give you tabs in all your apps, so that when you had an application open, you would have tabs for the other stuff that's open on your taskbar, so you would be able to just, you know, like get to the top of the open window and switch between running applications. That would have been a lot, made File Explorer and application windows a lot more like a browser window, which is kind of cool. Not up yet. That's probably coming in a later release, but they were thinking it was going to be in this one, and it's not. And let's see here. Search previews in the start menu. Okay, so when you start searching, they're going to actually start previewing web links, unless it's bringing up an application in search. That's kind of cool. It'll be a little bit more like your Windows search box to be like search engine results. Yeah, it even shows here that it's going to be Bing results, which no surprise there. That's Microsoft's search engine. A new screenshot utility with annotation tools, which I would love because the current clipping tool on Windows doesn't allow you to add text in there. You can do highlights and stuff like that, but adding text to a screen clip is just not feasible, so they really need to update that. They're doing some updates to Microsoft Edge. I'm not so. Oh, they're going to have actually in the advanced settings of Edge where you can use Adobe Flash Player to open PDF files, which is nice because I really don't think Edge opening PDF files with Microsoft Edge, which is the default behavior, is really anywhere. Oh. No. No. I read that to you wrong. I just about lied to you there for a second, and I don't want to do that. No, the advanced settings is going to allow Microsoft Edge to use Adobe Flash, which is really great for some online learning sites and legacy video sites. That has been a major problem in Edge, is that it doesn't support flash-powered video on websites. I know everybody and their brother wants to kill off Adobe Flash, but there's a lot of content out there that uses it. So it's great that they're bringing it to Edge, because let me tell you, you've had to revert back to Internet Explorer in a lot of cases. Google with Chrome, they have their own thing going on with Flash, and it's always been kind of weird, and it for the most part works, but you can run into issues with it. So I'm gonna scoot on down here, and mobile broadband improvements, that's more about your smartphones and tablets than it is about desktop. That's coming up. Some minor design changes. Windows Defender is going to become Windows Security. Okay, so they're going to change the name of it to Windows Security, and yeah, that needs a little more reading. Font installation for everyone. Okay, so when you install a font, you'll be able to install a font for all user accounts on the PC. I'm assuming if you're the administrator. Yeah, which is nice. Okay, power usage details in Task Manager, so they'll start giving you power stats in there along with all the other stats they already give you. Ways to make your text bigger using just a slider to scale the text on the screen, so that's a nice one. Windows Update will predict the best time to restart. Windows 10 now uses machine learning to avoid restarting your PC while you're using it. Okay, that would be nice if it works. I'm really hoping so. New game bar features, so there's some stuff there for gamers. You might want to dig into this article. Wireless projection controls, more emojis coming along. Okay, they're not going to be doing the thing where mail ignores your selected browser by default, so no fun there. Skype is getting a big update, including customizable themes, a new layout for your contacts, and the ability to customize the group called Canvas, dragging people around to choose who you want to see on the screen, and easier to start sharing your screen during calls. So that's a good one. And then Notepad supports Linux and Mac line endings. Notepad finally supports Unix-style end-of-line characters. This means when you open a Notepad-generated text file in Linux equivalent or in the Mac equivalent, it'll actually display properly, and vice versa. When you open text files generated in Linux or Mac, they'll display properly in Notepad. They're saying Notepad is getting many more new features too. Notepad now has a wraparound option for the find and replace dialogues. letting you find and replace in an entire document without first positioning your cursor at the top or the bottom. There's a new zoom feature, line and column numbers while word wrap is enabled, status bar enabled by default, support for the common control plus backspace keyboard shortcut to delete previous words. And Microsoft has also improved Notepad's performance while opening large files. It's also getting a search with Bing feature. Yeah, okay. So copy and paste keyboard shortcuts for Bash. This is for those who are running Linux within Windows. Windows 10 actually has support for using a kind of a pseudo Linux version within Windows 10. It's pretty interesting. So there's a lot coming up in this new release. So I won't be surprised if there's bugs. That won't shock me at all, but they're actually trying to do quite a few things that are good and worth doing. Yeah, there's a lot of good reading here. It's a long article with a lot of material, so I even need to go through and really fully read it myself. So let's scoot over and take a look at this story. This is on The Verge, and Android at 10, the world's most, worst, no, I didn't mean that. That was a little tongue slip, and I don't know if it was Freudian, but anyways, I actually like Droid. The world's most dominant technology. Seriously, more people on the planet access the web and experience the internet with Android devices than any other platform. Windows dominates in the Western business environment, and with good reason. I've found out an awful lot of stuff getting these certs and things that Windows can do that I had no clue about. And I've been working with Microsoft operating systems for a long time, but there's a lot of cool stuff under the hood. But Android is by far the most common way that people get online, far and away. It's a really interesting story, and at 10 years along, they really have taken the world by storm. And even in the U.S., you know, Apple is, let's see here, OS X is kind of a distant fourth, and then iOS is a distant third. Linux is hovering around 2 or 3%, it looks like, from the graph they're doing here. Windows is probably about 30 some odd percent, and Android is a bit above 40%. So yeah, Windows and Droid are really duking it out, but globally Droid is much more common by about a good 10% of the global device market. So pretty interesting reading here. And then this one's not technology, and yes, in a way it is, but archaeologists say they've identified Captain Cook's HMS Endeavour off the coast of Rhode Island. They found the sunken ship. So 250 years ago, Captain Cook was the guy who discovered Hawaii for Europe. In other words, made Europe aware it existed. Not that it hadn't been discovered before that, just saying. But anyway, so an HMS Endeavour was the ship that also was part of an exploratory voyage to Australia. And then later on, it was sold to a private owner and then renamed. And in 1778, British forces scuttled the ship, and Rhode Island Harbor trying to block French ships. This was basically happened during the American Revolutionary War. So, an interesting article there, fun reading. You know, I love antique sailing ships. I think they're graceful and beautiful. And actually, they were some of the fastest ships around. Basically, Yankee clippers were about the fastest thing going on the ocean. They were carrying Yankee clippers. I read a book on those at one point, and they were actually carrying cargo from New York to Hong Kong around the southern tip of South America because the Panama Canal didn't exist yet, and getting New York to Hong Kong and back on the order of 20 to 30 days. I think 22 was the fastest record. Those were American crafted clipper ships in the late 1800s. The story of the Yankee Clipper, I think, was the book, and if you ever get a chance to read it, it's a really cool read. So old technology, but just goes to show wind power can do some amazing things for ships. And if they could just turn those big old sails into solar panels so that when the wind was calm, they had batteries full of electricity to move the ship. I guess maybe they could stop burning oil to move ships. That's about 15% of the carbon being put out for transportation. That would be kind of cool. Side note, anyway, my mind always goes into these kind of idea factory things, like take one thing and another thing and put them together. And yeah, flexible solar sails, solar sailcloth, solar sailcloth. Huh. Interesting thought. Anyway, and then finally, to wrap up for the evening, SiriusXM is going to pay $3.5 billion to buy Pandora. Interesting. Very interesting. I wonder how much reach SiriusXM is really going to get online with Pandora. Don't know, but it's definitely going to be a powerhouse entertainment company doing that. I think that'll be an interesting story to follow. And that's kind of enough. Tonight, my wife and I are going to watch there's a new 20-minute teaser for the new Doctor Who coming out. So we're going to watch that tonight. Really looking forward to that. By the way, Midwest Nerd Chick, Tanya, thank you for following the show on YouTube. I just saw that, and I appreciate the follow. Hope to have you on the show again sometime in the near future, too. So we'll talk about that on the side channel, and maybe we can get that on the books. And on that note, I've been listening to a podcast on Podbean. I still use the Podbean app on my phone to listen to podcasts because they've got a lot of good ones, and I really like the app. I plan on returning to the Podbean podcasting format with the audio for this show eventually, but I've been listening to a cool podcast / radio show out of Canada called Spaced Out Radio, and it covers a lot of paranormal stuff, stuff that I would love to get a little bit more of on this show. I know I'm a lot of technology and a little bit sci-fi and a lot about what's going on with Dan because I'm a one-man band, of course. So but I also would love to get more paranormal stuff on here. I've tried to get a group called the Hemet Ghost Hunter Society on here before, but it hasn't really worked out yet. So maybe someday I can get them on and they can tell us some stories. But I think we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I would love to get them on, and that would be a really interesting show, but especially for Halloween. Anyway, so, if you've got a cool story along paranormal lines and you'd like to be a guest on this show, that might be worth talking about, especially if you can do Skype, because I can record Skype just fine. So You can always get a hold of me. Go to MidwesternGeekInCali.com. There's an email link right there on the sidebar of the site. You can hit me up on Twitter at MidwestGeek-Cali on Twitter. There's also links on the main website to get to me on social media. So I'm also on Facebook. There's a Facebook group for the show, Midwestern Geek in Cali discussion group. And that's pretty much it for right now. Or you can try and hit me up on YouTube, or in the comments, or also maybe through Google Plus, Midwestern Geek in Cali at gmail.com. Any of those methods will work to get a hold of me. So, as always, let me know what you think. Thank you for listening. I appreciate the subscribe if you're willing to do that and you've enjoyed the show. And have a great week. Hopefully I won't be missing 2 weeks again in the near future. I don't think I'll be quite so under the gun, so we'll see if we can keep it a little bit more regular, and maybe even with a little luck do a few live shows, live broadcasts from here where I can get a little interactive with you guys. But I didn't want to get back to the 75th episode with a kind of experimental format like that. So we'll work on it. Anyway, thank you for listening. Happy Vulcan fingers to you from the Agent of 42. May there never be a rogue wave in your coffee mug, and the sun almost always shines in Temecula. Thanks. Good night.